Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Babylon Bee interview show. We are your perpetually awkward hosts, Kyle and Ethan.
Why'd you say my name? I don't get to say my name.
See, that's the awkward part.
I'm Ethan. But more importantly, finally,
today,
we have a person here named Sam. You don't know a lot of Sams.
My son's name's Sam.
Oh, that's true. Except for you. It's Sam Sorbo.
Yes, who is female.
Yeah.
My
female
son's
Sam.
not female.
Yet.
Well,
Yeah.
you never know.
How do you know?
Yeah.
That's true. I didn't ask.
You might not know that.
We did assume. We just gave him the trucks to play with, and
Oh my gosh.
he liked them, so.
You've preconditioned him.
I know. So, well, everybody, I know a lot of us are now homeschoolers,
Everybody is.
even if you didn't want to be.
That's right.
Maybe we call this like accidental homeschooling. Is
That's-
that the phrase that we're using?
I use it accidental, but it's reluctant homeschooler maybe.
Reluctant homeschooling.
Involuntary homeschooling.
Homeschooler in denial.
Yeah, we've been homeschooling for a couple years. We didn't really have anything ideologically wrong with public school. Like we thought it was okay, but it would just worked so much better for our kids because our teachers weren't really paying attention to the kids, or they'd tell us like, "Oh yeah, we're going to work with them on math," and they wouldn't. We're like, "Well, we could do it," so we just started doing it. I know Ethan's. I don't know if you've heard on the podcast, but he's been talking about how they just jumped over to homeschooling because of the virtual school stuff.
Just made the jump.
They just made the jump. I mean,
That's awesome.
like
A lot of people.
So yeah, I mean, this is something that's on everybody's mind, and you've been an advocate for homeschooling for some time.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience to you.
Okay.
The schools wasn't serving my child in the capacity that I wanted. And so, and I'll tell you something. I mean, I don't know how easy it was for you. It was really hard for me to even contemplate taking on that responsibility.
Yeah.
But, over time, my message has morphed. In fact, I do videos on my website, and I did a whole series of videos that says homeschooling is easy. Parenting is hard. And it's really taking on the responsibility of parenting when you homeschool your child. It's less about it is about academics. And it was for me, but then I realized all of the benefits were not actually the academics. It was everything else that was of benefit, the parent-child relationship. And the school, necessarily, whether accidental or on purpose, the school forms a wedge between the child and the parent. So you drop your kid off at school and you say, here you go, you pat him on the butt, off you go. The school knows better than mommy. And then the kid comes home and he's been told something that maybe you disagree with. Guess who's going to win that battle? The school will. And then the kid thinks, mommy's dumb because the school told me this thing and mommy thinks this thing. And so the kid comes home with a piece of paper. Mom, you have to sign this. Daddy, you have to sign this. Sign this permission so I can do the thing that the school wants to do. And you sign it and you go right under the authority of the school in your child's eyes. It's not, it just is. There's nothing you can do about it. That's the way that it is. But then when the child becomes a teenager and you're saying stuff that the child doesn't necessarily want to adhere to or whatever, your authorities have been undermined. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember growing up, it was weird. I remember thinking this was weird when I was at school, that they did all these like anti-smoking, anti-drug things, which is good. It's a fine lesson or whatever.
His parents are big on drugs and smoking.
My parents were huge smokers. Yeah. No, not really. But
if you know about his parents,
I remember
really
even
fun.
at the time, I thought it was weird. It was probably 6th grade, and they were like telling us about, smoking is bad, smoking is wrong. Like if your parents smoke, go, hand them this sheet and tell them all the bad stuff about it. And I just... wherever you stand on smoking.
You gotta rat your parents out?
Yeah, go tell lecture your parents. Here's how you argue with your parents and convince them not to smoke. And it was it was weird to me that they were setting themselves up. But even if you agree with, obviously the cigarette smoking can be really bad. But at the same time, it was like the school morally lecturing the parents and using the students to do it. And I remember thinking that was weird.
Making you your parents' savior.
Yeah,
you better go
like
save your parents.
Good, yeah.
And then your parents don't comply. And all of a sudden it's your fault that your parents are going to die early of lung cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's like, it's a horrible position to put the child in. And of course it's worse now because that worked for a while. And then it became, oh, sweetie, you can't have plastic bags because they go into the ocean and they kill dolphins. Daddy kills dolphins?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, I've got that.
Yeah, like the arrogant, lecturing. You go tell your parents that they're doing the wrong thing. It's weird to me. So I don't know if that's more common now. I can't only imagine the kind of stuff that they're telling the kids to go tell their parents about now, with all the different culture war stuff going on.
Global warming and sex education and all that stuff.
Yeah. So what is it what would you say is the main problem with public schools, like how they're failing our kids, and or are they? I mean, I don't know.
Yes, they are. Common Core is probably like the hot button thing that you could put a label on.
What is that? What is Common Core like?
Oh, okay. Common Core.
I know it's a set of standards, but it's always thrown around like, Common Core math is stupid, but I don't really know like what.
Right. So Common Core was the idea was to make every student common. Seriously, it's in the name. Like, and who doesn't want that for their child?
It's like the opposite of hardcore.
Just basic. Make your kids basic.
It's a really boring style of music.
So they put these standards in, and they sold it as this way: children will all be at the same level, at the same grade. Which, of course, you know intrinsically that can't be. That's like virtually impossible because we're differently gifted as individuals. And so they put it through, they crammed it through. But the big problem with Common Core is it's the 9th overhaul of our education system in over 30 years. In under 30 years. So one every 3 years, each one costing a lot of money and none of them working because they always needed a new one. And so then you go, well, why aren't they working? Aren't these the educators? Shouldn't the educators know what they're doing? Mm-hmm. And so clearly not, because Common Core is failing. Test scores are down, and they promised us that test scores would be up, but test scores are now down after billions and billions of dollars spent. And you go, well, why would they implement it? Wouldn't their own testing before they implemented it, wouldn't that have told them that it wasn't going to work? You might think that it would have told them, but they didn't test it at all. And they just put it through. So it's like they bought the bus without testing the brakes and put your kid on it. And now the bus is heading downhill really fast. We're 27th in the world. We're the United States of America. We spend more per capita, per child for school than every other country except Switzerland. And we're 27th in the world. So if you have faith in the public schools, I have to ask you why. It's like there's no proof.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so much of school is just, it's social stuff. It's like, what kind of shoes is everybody wearing? If you're a bully, it's like, who can I give a wedgie today? Like there's so many elements to school that have nothing to do with learning.
Well, and that's the second question that parents are like, oh, I couldn't possibly educate my children. I don't know how. And I go, okay, so you graduated high school. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, okay. But you think that you can't teach a third grader. So how good was your education? Because obviously the point of the education is to be able to impart what you know, right? But you're telling me that you can't impart what you know. And then, oh, well, come on. And I go, but you're willing to put your child into the system that made you feel incapable. Mm-hmm. Like think about that for a minute. And so, and by the way, like I went through it. I felt completely incapable. I was completely incompetent. And I'm not dumb. And I know I'm not dumb, but I still didn't feel like I could do it. And the reason I felt incompetent was because that's what I was taught to feel. And so we've all been taught to feel incompetent, because if you haven't learned what you know from a teacher at a blackboard, and you haven't been given a gold star, and you haven't been taught that you can now teach that thing, you think you can't. And that goes like across the board, but it's not true.
Right.
So did you buy a house? How did you know how to buy a house? Well, you went and learned.
My wife did it.
Okay, you married well, which is always, that's always helpful. You leased a car.
Yeah.
You had no idea how to lease a car. You went into a car dealership. You said, I kind of want to lease a car. Can you help me through it? And somebody said, sure, I will. And the first time, maybe they took advantage of you. The second time, you've learned some stuff, but nobody actually taught you how to do that. Or if they did, it was organic. You said, can you show me how to do this? And you found somebody to show you how to do it. And I'm saying to people, do that with homeschooling. Find somebody to show you how to do it if you feel that. I sat with a woman the other day whose son people are being left, they're feeling left out. The system is like moving away. And I said to her, what's your main objection to home educate? Like, what are you thinking? What's the thing that's really holding you back from just saying, I'm going to do this for my son? And she basically burst into tears. She said, I just feel so I'm going to fail him.
Yeah. It's a common fear.
And I said to her, but the schools are already failing him. You can't help but improve upon what they've done because you love him. And that's really the main thing that matters, is you love your children and you want the best for them. And so you're going to shepherd them into the thing that makes them happy, the thing that makes them a fulfilling, that gives them a fulfilling life, the thing that puts them into service for other people, because in service we find happiness. And that's really the most important thing. And it has nothing to do with SAT scores.
Reminds me of a Chesterton quote from the essay we read.
Oh, yeah?
G.K. Chesterton.
Drop it.
Now I can't remember how it goes.
He always rails against public school.
It said something about you don't learn anything important in college. He said you learn it every day, like just going about your life. He's like, those lessons are much more important.
Well, I think it was Mark Twain who said, I never let schooling get in the way of my education.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've seen with homeschooling is like our kids are exploring the things that they naturally are gifted in, and not. I don't know how common that is in homeschooling, but it seems like they spend their couple of hours doing the formal education part, and then my son goes and plays guitar for 8 hours. You know,
Yes,
and he's a lot happier than if they had forced him into this program for 8 hours.
There is some sacrifice that's necessary. You can't just have ice cream for every meal.
Oh shoot!
Right. But,
That's what we're doing.
And so you show your kids that, but at the same time, you're not like pounding them with the education that is going to kill their innate curiosity.
Yeah.
So your son's innately curious about guitar. So why not foster that? Because who knows? Maybe he's the next guitar genius. Maybe he's the next
better than I am.
Degrassi or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you want to foster that. But at the same time, you do want him to get the basics. Let's do some math today, and we're going to do some history because you need to know where you come from and stuff like that. And so the thing that people don't quite understand about school is school doesn't take 7.5 hours a day.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
It's like I could tell, listening to my 5-year-old on her Zoom conference with her teacher. This has been the most ridiculous thing, is that our kindergartners doing Zoom kindergarten, sitting at a computer for 2 hours.
Please no.
And you can hear, and all the other kids, their audio is all turned on.
Right.
And whatever's going on in their house, you can hear brothers screaming at each other, and video games, and like dogs barking.
That's so helpful.
And the teacher is trying to just be like, row, row, row your boat gently down. Sing with me. Sinking's off.
Everyone's singing out of sync.
And I'm just listening to this. I'm going, she's padding this out. Like, this is just because she has to fill a certain amount of time.
Yes.
If you didn't have to,
But
you just needed to do the lesson.
They do it in school too.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to watch E.T. again. That's what I used to do in the 90s. For me.
There's a substitute teacher. Like, I guess we'll.
Yeah, I'm a substitute. We'll watch E.T. again.
And it's funny
And I always cried during E.T., so I hated it.
So now what we have is we have a nation of substitute teachers, because all the parents who are sending their kids to the Zoom classes, they're all the substitute teachers, because the classes, at least the ones that I've heard about, and I know that there are private schools who are doing all day Zooming.
Yeah.
But for a lot of public schools, it's like, no, you've got 3 hours of Zoom, and then you have, I can't remember what they call it. They call it some free work time or something, where I guess you like log in, but you're not really in a classroom. I don't know. Anyway, the point being that the parent has to sort of hover and make sure that the work's getting done, and the parent's the substitute.
Yeah.
And
we have a 3-year-old.
Nobody wants to be the substitute teacher.
We have a 3-year-old that wreaks havoc on the house, and my wife is trying to hover over the 5-year-old and make sure she's getting what she's supposed to be getting done. And the 10-year-old, he's a lot better about it. But then the 3-year-old is out, just knifing bags of rice and just whatever he can do to just destroy the house.
So
we don't give him
is that a euphemism, or is he actually
that kind of the idea of there's a bunch of bags of rice and you're knifing all of them and just pouring
It sounded like an idiom that I didn't know about. Knifing the rice.
Is the first thing came to my head.
It's over knifing the rice.
Overturning pickle barrels. I don't know. I'm not good at suddenly coming up with analogies.
Yes, you are.
But they're very specific.
Yes, it's very specific for not being real or true or whatever. And imagine that everything that the 5-year-old is learning is look, schools were initially developed to engender morals in a body politic that could not function without morals. So John Adams said that our Constitution is inadequate to any other group of people. We need a moral populace.
Yeah.
And they're no longer doing that. In fact, they're doing, I'm going to go a little bit out on a limb here with you guys. They're doing the opposite. And so what we're seeing in the streets today, the riots and the looting and stuff, that's survival of the fittest, because that's what they're teaching in public school. And they're also saying don't bully, but that's a bit of a conflict, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easier to go with survival of the fittest if you're looking at a brand new TV and it's right there for the taking. And so they morphed, and part of that morphing was, we need behavior modification because we're not demanding a morally principled student anymore. Mm-hmm. So now we just have to make sure that they are obeying.
Right.
And in fact, the modern public school system was modeled after the Prussian system, and the Prussian system was engaged in creating an army. And what do you want from your army? Obey, right?
Right.
And
bombs,
obedience.
Tanks.
Well, obedience first and foremost.
And then
they don't provide the tanks.
Oh, okay.
You give them to them.
Yeah.
Isn't how armies work?
I don't know.
I know all about them.
I don't know the military strategies. Obedience,
Compliance.
baby.
Yeah.
And so having your 5-year-old sit in front of a computer screen is not going to teach her or him. Her. It's not going to teach her that, which is probably good, but you should.
Yeah. So we've pulled her out. We basically just took all the materials the school gave us, and then we're going to do it ourselves.
Oh, so you're not doing the Zoom calls.
That's
awesome, because what you can do is
just quit it.
You can make her the teacher for your 3-year-old.
There you go.
As they grow, that will cement her knowledge to her. Mm-hmm. Can you teach him your math facts? Sure, Mommy. And then all of a sudden she's understanding that she is more capable than she thought she was. Mm-hmm. And it gives him this respect level for her because she's the older, but she's kind. Do you know what I mean? It's a completely different paradigm than if your kids go to school.
I like it. We should just have her raise him.
You can't do that because she still needs parents.
That's true.
Yeah, Ethan.
Well, no, we'll have the 10-year-old raise her.
Interesting idea.
13-year-old raise him. Me and the wife.
And yet that's how the Duggars
Fiji
do it.
Islands.
Yeah, that's what the Duggars do. That's what I was going to say.
That's how you do it.
You need a few more kids.
They assign, the 15-year-old, you've got the 10-year-old. Or
I forget who it was. Number 7, you go with number 3.
Yeah, they just number them. They just start numbering.
They all start with J, don't they?
They just have this crazy matrix thing laid out.
Just pair them off, and the older one is for the,
Jebediah, go take care of Jezebel.
Right.
That kind of thing. I don't think they have a Jezebel. So
I'm not going to go there. They don't know either.
They're not
That's
sure.
like, I just don't even.
That'd be crazy if you're like 20 names in and you're like, what are you going to name this one?
We're running out of J Bible names.
Just give them the J. Well, just J.
There's J. I don't know if they have a J. So I'm wondering how much of this is like, I think you might have touched on it, but
probably not.
No, you said that they were the padding of the school day.
Yeah.
Or maybe you said,
padding it out.
Yeah.
Like that's what some of it is. That's what they were already doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like there was already 8 hours of school, but only 2 hours of actual instruction.
Right.
And it was padded out to kind of be this daycare or something.
Well, it has to because the parents work.
Yeah.
We moved into a both parents work society.
Yeah. So, a lot of this seems like it's connected to this cultural decline or this cultural downgrade, where we don't have that family, that nuclear family being the center of things anymore.
And what's really phenomenal is that shift is that is now shifting again. And I believe it's for the better. Not necessarily, but in many instances it's for the better. So parents are learning that they can work from home because they have to, because they have kids
right.
and the kids can't go to school. Mind you, in other countries, the kids are going to school just fine. But hey, I'm all for it. Don't send the kids to school. Like I said, it's all good here. So the parents are now discovering maybe they have to go into work 1 or 2 days a week, or maybe they will decide to go into work 1 or 2 days a week. What happens is the parent understands that it's on them now, and they need to enforce discipline. So parenting and homeschooling is less about the discipline of the child. It's actually more about the discipline of the parent to actually parent the child. When you step into that role of disciplinarian, and I'm not talking about spanking or anything, I'm just saying that your law is the law, that you are the authority, and you're not handing your authority over to an institution, things go much smoother and it gets much easier. And I was doing an interview yesterday, and the gal asked me, she's got a teenager. She's got 2 teenagers, I think. She said, well, what happens if, you don't have that relationship with your teenager, which she obviously didn't have.
Yeah.
And she said, how do you build that? And I said, you have to enforce consequences right away. None of this, don't make me come over there. None of that. Mm-hmm. And there's no anger either. So you enforce the consequence. You go, oh my gosh, you didn't finish your work today? Well, then you're not going to the movie with your friends tonight, because obviously you didn't finish your work. Mm-hmm. And you can say it with a smile, because it doesn't bother you that they can't go to the movie. Mm-hmm. It just bothers you enough that you need to enforce it so that they get their work done tonight, so that maybe tomorrow they can do something fun with their friends.
It doesn't work in COVID because they're never doing anything fun with their friends.
This is true, but they're always Wi-Fi passwords.
Always something.
Wi-Fi, Fortnite. I don't know.
Fortnite, or I don't know that.
What's big right now?
Lots of other games too.
Yeah. I'm not
Oxygen.
up enough.
I don't know. I heard like
oxygen.
Fortnite is like not the game anymore.
My kids were telling me that it's not cool anymore. Like if you play Fortnite, it's like, oh, come on.
10-year-olds
like you're showing how uncool you are.
Yeah, like
right
that
now.
was years ago. Come on. But I don't know. Maybe my kids are just contrarians or something.
Maybe they're playing guitar.
They're just playing guitar.
Guitar Hero.
Well,
there's a game.
Yeah.
No.
He would like that. We don't have Guitar Hero, but that could be one of the classes. So how are our kids going to be prepared for gender studies in college if we homeschool them?
See, I don't support going to college either.
Okay. Well,
Wow.
well, you don't support going to college at all? Like no college?
I overstated that.
Okay.
I overstated that. And there are some
home
good
college.
There are some good colleges, but
Home college.
I do support home college. Okay, so why would anybody go and pay thousands of dollars to study gender studies? Why do that? I mean, I know these days it's fairly lucrative, but it's not real. It's unhelpful. Like if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, well, here's the thing. Yeah. Like if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, you think you have to go to college, right?
Yeah.
No, you have to pass the MCAT.
Yeah.
You have to pass the MCAT, or you have to pass the LSAT.
They'll let you take that even if you didn't. So I could go take the medical.
Why wouldn't you be able to?
I don't know. I don't know.
How hours you got to do of like.
You're exposing my ignorance here.
I don't know.
You don't have to graduate college to take that. You don't have to graduate high school to go to college. I didn't.
Well, that's true.
Don't tell anybody.
Well,
so we've all been sort of brainwashed into this paradigm that doesn't exist, because we think that these things have to happen. We think our kids have to go to school. We think they can't have a successful life if they don't go to school. We think that they have to go to college because why? Because our schools are what? Career ready, college prep and career readiness.
Yeah.
College prep and career readiness. We've been hearing that for ad nauseum for so long. Well, let's take that apart. Career readiness. What is that? That means when you graduate college, there's a career ready. Mm-hmm. You're career ready. Is that happening? No, because kids are going home to their parents' basements and working at Starbucks. And I mean, we see this over and over again. Okay. So then why did they go to college? Because the schools tell them college prep and you got to go to college to get a good career. Mm-hmm. Well, what's that about? What's college then? College is a place where you, as my son says, it's a place where I would borrow money to pay them to teach me to get a job that's good enough, that pays well enough for me to pay them back. Why would I do that? That's like indentured servitude.
Yeah.
And so college prep becomes really a kind of a pyramid scheme. We're going to teach you. You give us a bunch of money, and then
A bunch of money.
at the end, you're going to get a big payout. So you can pay back the money that you borrowed to get here. And so I don't want to ask kids anymore, what school are you going to? I want to ask them why.
Yeah.
Why college? Like, what's your hope there? Now, my second child is an engineer. There's no doubt that he's an engineer. He wants to pursue engineering. He will go to college because there are fine colleges where they pursue engineering and they do it very well. But my oldest said to me, I know what school I want to go to. And when he was like 16, and I was like, oh, really? What do you want to study? He said, well, I want to be an actor. And I said, oh, darling,
Oh, dear.
you don't need to go to college to be an actor.
I got my doctorate in acting.
I don't think we mentioned that are you still an actress?
Yes.
You ever stop being an actress, even if you don't? I mean, you act still.
Oh, yeah,
right?
I guess not. No.
Kind of like Marines. You never say that once a Marine, always a Marine. Once an actor, always an actor.
Right. Former Marine, former actress.
Wait, am I allowed to say actress?
Are you actor or actor?
Yes, no, I'm an actress because my name, right? And otherwise people get very confused.
Sam Sorbo,
And I'm
yes,
married to Kevin, and it would start all kinds of rumors and innuendos, which already exist, I'm sure. So
So you're an actor, but you didn't go to actor college.
I did take classes, but not at college.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of my road. I mean, I always wanted to draw, do animation, comics, work in TV, and I tried to find. I
And
just
you
did
ended
not,
up here.
I didn't want. Yeah, I have had some successes, but I didn't want to go into debt for that. I saw so many artists who had spent so much money on art school,
Right.
and they weren't that great when they got out, and they didn't train them anything. You know.
Well, there's so much politics in art now.
Yeah.
That it's hard. There's so much politics in education now that it's hard to pursue an unbiased education, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. It's crazy what's happening in the colleges today. So yeah, my thing is, if you're going to college, know why you're going. And by the way, again, we have this strange paradigm that the educators are that stupid. Okay? Because the educators have taught us to spend this money with no exit strategy, right? So you go to college and you study East African basket weaving and you graduate with $180,000 in debt and no prospects of a job. And nowhere along the way did any of the educators ask, what's your exit strategy? Like, where do you see this taking you in the future? I don't know. I just really love it. And mommy and daddy are paying for my education. Like, it's silly. Mm-hmm. There was a kid in the last election who stood up and said, yeah, I'm $60,000 in debt. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, well, who put you there? Yeah. You did. It's entirely your own free will. Mm-hmm. So accept that this is what we've been brainwashed to pursue. Mm-hmm. And nobody's sort of taking a step back and thinking about it and going, okay, but really, what am I trying to do here? And so I'm hoping now that we've got all of these home educated or quasi home educated kids that they're going to start thinking about things a little bit more realistically, because the schools won't have the chance. Did you see that article, that teacher? I think it was a text capture, or it might have been Twitter, was lamenting that they weren't going to be able to just indoctrinate the kids because they might have parents hovering around listening to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we read it on our news show.
Yeah.
That we recorded earlier.
That was
today.
really disturbing.
It is disturbing.
That was frightening, and there was all these teachers chiming in. Yeah, me too. I'm really worried about the parents that are going to see that about our gender discussions in class. And then I think the main teacher that started the thread said, We've engendered this atmosphere of what happens here stays here, and we want to preserve that. And I'm like, whoa, that's like concerning on many levels.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Common Core has done is it's put a lot of the learning online, a lot of the testing online. Uh-huh. And so they will test your child and not allow you to see the questions that they're asking your child. And some of the questions could be, does mommy and daddy own a gun? You don't know. Does mommy take you for regular medical checkups? How are your vaccinations these days? I mean, you just don't know. Mm-hmm. And, there's documentation on that people have posted online and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the idea that they are actively trying to separate you from your child is valid, whether it's systemic or not. I won't say, because although I think that if you go online and you read some of the materials that the schools are following, you can kind of discern for yourself. But even if it's not systemic, you don't get to choose teachers.
Right.
Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Like when you hire a contractor to come into your house, do you interview him? Mm-hmm. No, heck, I just the phone book and I just pick a guy out of
They assign one to me.
Right? So you interview people who are going to be just performing a job for you. Even your landscaper, if you have a landscaper, or your car mechanic or whatever, right? But the person who is going to be teaching your child for the year, no, just give me whoever you think, whatever whatever the lottery picks for them is good enough for my child.
Yeah. Yeah, I've run into that. You get a bad teacher, you're like stuck with them pretty much.
You're stuck. You're helpless. I mean, you can go and complain, but you don't know the damage that's being done. Mm-hmm. So when I'd homeschooled for about a year and a half, I felt completely inadequate. I knew I was failing. I spent Christmas trying to teach my idiot son to read. And he was really smart in math. But they've taught us that if you're smart in math, you're not smart in reading. If you can do science, then you're not humanities, which is a lie. There are a lot of lies in our public school system. That's one of them. So I was convinced that he just couldn't read, and he couldn't. He read haltingly and whatever. And so after a few weeks, I thought, I'm going to put him in a nice little Christian school. And by the way, I'm inadequate to teach him the Bible anyway, because I wasn't raised as a Christian. So what do I know? So I put him in this little school. I took him in the very first day, and I said, okay. They said, we're going to test him just to see what classes he'd be best suited for, because they weren't age grading. They were trying to do ability grading sort of thing. And I said, okay, but just so you know, like, apologizing for my inadequacy, he's advanced in math, but he's really not a good reader. And I did the best I could. So, don't shoot me.
My son's an idiot. I'm sorry.
And so she went and tested him, and she came back and she said, okay, so you're right. He is advanced in math. So he's second grade level, but he's actually a fourth grade math level. So congratulations. That's very good. He is reading at a fifth grade level, though.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I went, I kid you not. I said, so I'm the one with the problem? She's like, yeah, kind of. And I left him. Even when it was proven to me that I was doing an adequate job, I was still so convinced that the system knew better than I did. And I'm sure that parents across the board are convinced of the same thing. And it's a lie. And after 6 weeks, I took him out because I went and had a meeting with the teacher, and she spent 10 minutes telling me how well behaved he was. And all I could think of was, I'm here to find out about academics, not behavior. I know my child is well behaved. I raised him. He's a good boy, Mm-hmm. But she talked nothing about academics. And I thought, so she has one interest, behavior, and I have a different interest. And so why am I trying to do this with her, right? So I took him out. And the first day back, I think it was a Friday, right? So Monday we sat down at the table and I put math in front of him and he started to cry. He said, I can't do it, Mommy. It's too hard. It's too hard. I can't do it. And it broke my heart because he was my math whiz. He finished first grade math on Halloween of first grade. Like Mommy, I'm going to do 30 pages in my book today. And I'm like, okay, and somehow she broke something. And I have no idea what happened in the class. Why he would think math was hard is absurd. So I'm just saying, like, you just don't even know. You have no idea what you're sacrificing when you send your children into a room full of children their age with a stranger.
Yeah.
When you start homeschooling, do your kids immediately become weirdos?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All
that
homeschoolers
good?
Are very freakish.
Like 15-passenger van, denim jumpers, the whole deal.
Yeah. and doilies on their heads.
Change all their names to the J Bible name. The whole thing. Yeah.
So the thing about homeschoolers is they got that bad rap because because initially homeschooling was the very last resort for children who simply could not cope in school. And so because nobody wanted to, I say that, basically nobody wanted to homeschool because it was so much more convenient. And the little schoolhouse, the little one-room schoolhouse, and it's tradition and all of those great things that we think about school. And, you remember lunch boxes we didn't have lunch boxes, but, there's a whole tradition that goes along with it. And so initially the first homeschoolers pretty much were the freaks. The kids who were way too bright, they couldn't get along in the classroom. They were too freakish or outlandish, and they got picked on too much. They got bullied too much. But now it's like super mainstream. Mm-hmm. And
now it's super, super mainstream.
Yeah.
Super double mainstream.
Everybody's doing it.
But I mean, even before that,
yeah, right.
We've got horse show people homeschool, actors homeschool,
right?
Skaters homeschool. Anybody whose child is like insanely gifted in one area or just very interested and the parents are into it. Hockey players, my kid's going to play hockey. They've chosen to homeschool. So there's a lot. And then there are the people who homeschool because of ideological reasons, or the people who, and there of course still the people who just, the kids are a little wonky or whatever, and they've chosen to homeschool. But here's what's great. You put your kids in, I do a co-op. And my kids have, kids who are not terribly well adjusted in their co-op. And they're kind.
Yeah.
They learn to be kind to the children who in the classroom you would see a bit of a Lord of the Flies thing happening. But by the way, you get bullying in homeschool co-ops too. Uh-huh. There's always a little bit of that. But typically because the parents are so involved, it's handled. And it's handled a lot. I experienced it, so I understand. There are great ways to handle that kind of thing that can produce phenomenal results despite horrible circumstances. So,
yeah, because bullying really formed me, so I don't know how I would handle it if I didn't have bullying around, if I was homeschooled. I don't know who would give me wedgies and stuff.
Well, like your brothers.
I was the oldest.
Younger brothers can't give older brothers.
That was also really fun in school because my brothers got
So you
bullied.
were the bully, and that's what helped you become...
No, I got bullied.
But you didn't bully your brothers like wedgies?
I bullied my brothers, yeah. But then also when they were in school below me, they got bullied, and I was able to go up and throw the bully down the stairs and just whatever.
Bully the bully.
Bully the bullies.
You're like the watchman.
So bullying, I think bullying is a sort of a rite of passage. It's sort of part of our of children's social fabric because they're testing, they're trying to figure out where are the boundaries. But when it's done without supervision, without some kind of supervision, which is more and more happening in our schools, then it becomes more and more problematic. Yeah. And my son actually agrees with you, and he was bullied.
Yeah.
So and he was homeschooled all the way through.
To some extent, I'm being kind of serious because I see how delicate kids are lately, and it kind of freaks me out. And I learned to deal with being picked on and stuff, and to kind of take myself lightly. And it seems like that's not a value.
I was bullied in school. It was awful, and I got through it. And
not saying it's good.
I did really bad things to the bully. Oh. I was bullied in school, and in gym class we played basketball, and the bully would take the basketball, and before she would shoot, she would hold it behind her head. So I would just go like that, and she would bonk herself in the head with the basketball. She did it so many times.
It's genius.
Oh, you made it sound like you had her locked up in a closet.
No, she was nasty to me. Yeah. But I got her back, and that made me feel a little bit better. I was a very shy child, so.
You keep all their names on a list and then give them to Kevin. Say
that's right.
These are the kids who bullied me.
That's right.
And then put the fear of God on them.
There's all bullying. You can't make generalized statements, but I will say this: the head of the Federated Teachers, United Federated Teachers, something like that. They had a big conference in New York with 2,000 teachers in the room, and the head is a guy named Michael Mulgrew. You can look it up. You can look up the video online, and he says to the crowd, "I will punch you in the face and I will push you on the ground before you take away basically my Common Core. And, he's a bully. That's bullying language. Like he's going to punch you up. He's going to beat you up if you try to take away Common Core. This was when they were implementing, right? And that's one thing. Well, he's the head of a teachers union. Well, how do you get to be the head of a teachers union? Well, maybe you have to be a bully, to be in a teacher, to really get some level of, a notoriety in a teachers union. But the reaction of the crowd of 2,000 teachers cheering for that is really, and we're asking them to teach our children not to bully. And by the way, they're teaching our kids survival of the fittest. So how are they going to then teach them not to bully?
Yeah, it really is like bullying's totally fine right now. It's as long as it's aimed in the right direction, right? Because that's what.
Just in the public space.
Yeah, just that's how. Go on Twitter. Right. Go on. Look at all the riots.
Cancel culture riots.
Cancel culture.
Well, it's cancel culture, and it's all
Doxing.
Survival of the fittest, which is that's been the law of the land since we took the Bible out of our schools. We're not presenting any alternative point of view, so that's what we've got.
So this is a situation that we're in, which I always think, our situation's so unique, but then I'm sure there's a lot of parents that this might be holding them up too. One thing that kept us from homeschooling is that when I married my wife, she already had 2 kids. My 2 oldest are stepkids, and not a very cooperative ex-husband.
Yes.
And so the idea of trying to homeschool with him cooperating just sounds
now he has no
impossible.
Choice.
Now we have no choice but to try to do this with him. But have you ever run into that when your travels of preaching the gospel of homeschooling?
Yeah. I mean, and frankly, there's very little to be done. I advocate for collaborative divorces because at least with collaborative divorce, you have a chance of coming out on the other side not at war. Divorce is war.
Yeah. So
how do you hope to overcome everything that goes into a divorce? And then express a wish. Like, okay, my best advice is if you want to homeschool, tell your husband tell your what's the word I'm looking for? Your divorced spouse, right? Your ex. Tell your ex there is no way that you will ever be convinced to homeschool, and they should stop trying to convince you. And then maybe you'll get them to say, I want to homeschool, and then you'll have to sort of say, well, okay, I guess I have to try it since you're being so, obstinate.
For us,
try
it's
a little
different
reverse psychology.
A little different situation. I mean, he'd be fully on board with homeschooling. It's just it's such a bad relationship, manipulative type stuff like that. A person you just can't work with or trust. So when it comes to that kind of thing, I don't know how you partner on something like that, but then I guess the material is material and the tests are the tests and stuff like that. Then
would he be taking a very strong role in the education of the children?
It's a split custody situation. So they're there half the week.
Half the week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see,
it's terrible.
That's very hard.
It's a whole mess. Yeah.
But since you're in this and you've got the kids, I would attempt to work out rather than half the week. I would attempt to work out maybe a half the month or every other week. And then you get the kids on a schedule and you share the curriculum, and that's how you get it done. Or you say, listen, how about the kids do their schoolwork at my house? Or you gotta work it. I don't know. Yeah,
the situation we're in, there's no negotiating really kind of.
Right.
But that's our unique situation. So I don't want to.
But there are a lot of people in that situation.
Yeah.
And then there's the working parent. So I was chatting with a guy once who, this guy's my hero. His son was failing 7th grade and they weren't going to put him into 8th grade. They were going to hold him back in public school. And the father said that was going to just kill him. Like he could see it because you're branded a failure and everybody knows that you failed. And his wife was just obstinate, was refusing to home educate. And so he took a night shift and educated his son every morning. At the end of his night shift, they would do school together and for a whole year. And he brought him through 7th grade and 8th grade and then mainstreamed him again in 9th grade. And that guy's my hero. And he's his son's hero because their relationship was so much better. Initially, it was tough. Initially, here's the problem that we have is the people who started to home educate during COVID, That's not what it is. That's not it. You know, you're just substitute teaching, which is a completely different beast.
You mean like setting up the camera and sitting them in front of the...
Well, during COVID, a lot of places just sent stuff home, like do this with your kid, do that with your kid. And I remember a video, somebody sent me a video that their school sent home. Really cute. Hey kids, how are you? This is a message from all the teachers. We miss you. And every single teacher did a cute little iPhone video, whatever, and they edited them all together. And I sat there for 20 minutes, maybe more, 30 minutes of all these cute videos that the teachers had done. Not a single teacher said anything about academics. All of them were, hey, don't forget to wash your hands. I'm here at the creek walking my dog and I miss you. Nothing about, don't forget to read Tom Sawyer because I'm hoping to see you soon and we want to discuss it. Nothing
Racist.
about that.
That is racist.
You're advocating. Jeez.
I'm sorry. It's on our reading list this year. So I'm just saying, like parents, when you watch that, are you not at all concerned that the teachers don't care about the education of your child? Think about it. So really, what's their concern? Don't forget to wash your hands. I miss you. Mm-hmm. What is that? If you hire a teacher for your child and interview them, and a lot of homeschoolers do that. So they basically hire somebody and give them the curriculum or let them pick the curriculum. And then it's basically 3 hours a day, maybe 4 hours a day if your kids are in the upper grades. And then the rest of the day, the kids are free. They get all their work done in that set time period, basically. And maybe you could do some reading in the afternoon or whatever. But what we started to do during COVID was, sort of a bastardized version of school. And now they're doing online. Do they have any experience teaching online? Do you not think that is like a completely different beast than teaching in a classroom? It is.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster.
And have they done any testing for, really, we ought to be demanding some knowledge. Like what do you know about teaching online? Mm-hmm. What research have you done? And when this first came down, I was like going, why don't they have anything to send home yet? It's been a week. Okay, they can have a week to prepare some materials to send home. They're still not sending anything home. Then it was 3 weeks, still not sending anything home because they're not actually engaged in education. They're engaged in schooling. It's different.
What are the numbers like? I'm curious because I know I've heard conflicting things about the academic performance of public school kids versus homeschool, and I'm sure it is all over the map in some ways because
it's not.
Really? Well, if you're a bad homeschool teacher, your kids aren't going to come out.
Yeah,
what are the numbers?
The point is that by and large, homeschoolers test much better, maybe not much better, but on average, the averages are better than public educated children. And
it's kind of a low bar to clear, though.
It is. We're 27th in the world. It's like you could literally not educate your child. And there are people who do that. It's called unschooling. I think it's crazy, but it's sort of like, well, when
just let them do whatever.
If they want to go to college, they'll learn the math they need to know. That's crazy to me. But there are people who do that. And, kids are innately curious. And there's a part of it that you really ought to rely to a certain extent on the innate curiosity of the child to go and give him the tools to do the discovery that he needs to do, that he wants to do. So, yeah. I can't remember the numbers, and it was from 3 years ago, I think, or maybe 2016. But it was several percentage points higher test scores. Now, of course, they've changed the testing. So they're testing for the claptrap that they're teaching now, which is sort of unscientific mumbo jumbo stuff.
Yeah, homeschool kids perform much worse on the gender studies.
Exactly, and the Common Core math.
Yeah.
And I go into this in my book. My book is called They're Your Kids. I go into it. The Common Core methodology that they have is like crazy making. Well, you would think that they might be concerned that this would form a wedge between the child and the parent. The child comes home with 4th grade math and the parent can't help him because the parent goes, I've never done lattice math. I don't know how to help you with that.
Yeah.
Do it the standard algorithm way, because that makes sense and I can help you with that. No, the teacher says we have to do it this way.
That way is racist.
And you're dumb.
Yeah, and you're dumb and racist.
So
They're obsessed with squares and blocks. They always want me to add with blocks.
your kids are?
Yeah, like when they would bring home the homework from the school when they read in public school. It's like, oh, the blocks. And I was like, I don't know what all these squares are. So I don't know, it's a Common Core thing or something.
It's called graph paper.
No, not a graph paper. If I can't figure it out, I'm like, I can do the problem really quick. It's like this. But they want me to do it in some bizarre way.
Oh, yes, because, in Common Core, they have they have the lattice for multiplication. So I'll explain it. Just, how we do, you write one number, then you write the other number, then each digit multiplies and you write them down.
The normal human way to do math.
Standard algorithm, which adheres to the decimal places of our number system. Yeah. So it makes perfect sense. But the lattice one, you write one number across the top, and then you draw a grid with an extra set of blocks in it. And then you write the second number down the one side, and then you multiply across, in the grid, and then you put...
You lost me.
Right? And then you put the product, which might be two digits, right? You put it in the block, but you put the first digit above and then draw a line through it, a diagonal line, and the second digit below. And then to get the answer, you add up on the diagonal and you put the number down the one side and across the bottom. And then you read the number that way, and that gives you your answer. Yay! And it makes absolutely no sense.
We did it.
And by the way, they're asking third and fourth graders to draw boxes like that, that they can adhere to, that don't look sloppy. Mm-hmm. It's not a good...
They don't draw boxes very well.
Right.
What about people that really want their kids to get indoctrinated by the 1619 Project?
Well, then they really need to send their kids to Harvard, obviously.
Because aren't they going to be implementing that into schools?
No, it's in the schools. It's already there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Do you know much about that?
I do. It's absurd. And it's been completely debunked and refuted, but the New York Times won't step in.
What's the core thesis?
The core thesis of the 1619 Project is that the United States was founded on slavery with the initial slave ship that came to this country.
So rather than the Mayflower, it's like the slave ship.
Yeah. And it's a refuge.
Slave flower.
Look, they've been teaching Howard Zinn. Are you familiar with Howard Zinn? He wrote A People's History of the United States. And so that's been in our history classes. You're pointing at each other.
He nodded, and so I was just going along with him.
Acting
like yes.
Oh, okay.
Not read it, but
he's aware.
He's known as the,
It's sort of the foundational text now in our public schools. And Howard Zinn was a communist, and he hated the United States. And so, of course, you want somebody who hates the United States to give you the foundational version of history for this country. And I mean, he takes quotes from Christopher Columbus and pulls them completely out of context and makes it sound like Christopher Columbus was a slave-loving, what's the word I'm looking for? American Indian hating
bigot,
racist,
meth addict.
Yeah,
I think you didn't get what we were doing there either.
It's a little bit it's hit and a miss, swing and a miss.
We were talking about the creative minds, how you just pull random things from it. He just goes for it sometimes.
Sorry. Continue.
It's all good. No, so the 1619 is a reasonable development from that. And all these people, and they believe what they believe so fervently. Mm-hmm. That's why I struggle with we believe what we believe. We believe what we were taught. And a lot of it was not true. And it's hard. It's hard when the things that you were taught weren't true and you're faced with a whole new paradigm. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to tell parents, you are the best educator for your child. Your child is a gift. Don't give your child to someone else to open. And they were raised to believe that the schools have it covered and that's the best place for their child. And it's probably the worst place for their child. All that stuff. So,
you think parents are the ones who should be doing surgery on their children?
So no, I'm thinking there are certain things where you hire an expert. Well, here's the thing. Like parents say, well, I can't teach my child calculus, right?
Yeah.
I could never, yeah.
And that was always the first question. I'm a math person, so I tutored calculus. So my answer was like, you shouldn't be asking me that because I love calculus. And my kids hate it.
You're like, that's your trump card. You're like, actually, yes, I do teach calculus.
My kids are like, Mom, I need a little help with math. And I'm like, yes, let's do that now. And they're like, oh, why did I have to say that? But here's the thing. Have you seen Kumon and Mathnasium and all the math tutoring places that have popped up everywhere? Mm-hmm. It's not like you don't have resources out there. Why are they so prolific? Because the schools aren't getting it done. Mm-hmm. So don't send your child to school thinking the school will teach him calculus. I honestly didn't learn calculus until I got to college, and I'd already tested out of it. Which I know sounds weird, but I didn't learn it until I started tutoring it.
Oh, wow.
So, and I would read the text. It's funny. Here's the other thing that parents don't understand. The answers are right there in the textbook.
Yeah.
But we never learned that because we had the teacher to teach us all the stuff that was in the textbook. So we never read the textbook, but it's right there. So when I was tutoring calculus, I'd be sitting there with the textbook and she'd be sitting there trying to, start the problem and write it down. I'd be reading and looking at the solution because they would work out the solution for you. And I'd think, I wonder why they took a 2, why they put a 2 in front of that instead of just a 1. And then I'd go back up and look and the 2 is there because, and I'd say, I bet you're wondering why that's a 2. And my student would go, yeah, I am. Let me explain that to you. And I literally had just figured it out for myself. So the textbook has all the answers. So going back to, my inability to teach my children how to be Christian, because I wasn't raised as a Christian, so I didn't do Christian speak. Mm-hmm. There's a really good book for that.
How to Be a Perfect Christian by the Babylon Bee.
By the Babylon Bee. Thank you for promoting her.
Actually, that wasn't the book I was referring to. But would you like me to hold it up for the camera?
Yeah.
No, that's all right.
It's actually it's called the Bible.
Oh,
and
the next
I've heard of that one. Yeah,
it's amazing because if you read it, it teaches you everything you need to know, and it's so funny because once I started doing, and I say to parents, just do the Bible, just pick a book, read it, talk about it. Read. You don't have to read a whole chapter. You don't have to read. And by the way, have your children read the Bible to you. That teaches them how to read out loud. It's a very good skill to have.
It's like a free audiobook.
And it is. I used to put the audiobook on the table when my kids were really little.
The James Earl Jones reading.
It was some guy.
William Shatner's got
and
one.
his really no.
Really?
I think he's got
but it was some guy.
Bobcat Goldthwait reading.
And they marched for 40 days, and and his voice was so odd. It just made us giggle. But yeah, yeah.
Kevin Sorbo, your husband should do one. He has like a Batman voice.
Well, thank you for bringing it up and promoting it. It's called the Breathe Bible.
Oh.
Available on DVD
that's
or
why
on CD.
Brought that up.
They did this whole thing that they produced it with the audio
images
and
stuff.
No, not images, but just all audio. So if you hear it from the other room, you think somebody's watching a movie because it has all the audio of a movie. So that's pretty cool.
Audio
drama production.
Yes.
Oh,
Theater of the Mind.
Adventures in Odyssey.
So,
do we want to go into our subscriber portion?
Yeah, you want to do some just weird, stupid questions? Ask about working in Hollywood and just your crazy life.
Why not?
This is
jump right off the education.
More
boat.
exclusive, so you can let loose and
let loose. It won't be on YouTube.
Tell us about all the people in Hollywood who are horrible and all their horrible secrets.
All the dirty dirt
stuff.
So in other words, this will not be circulated.
This will
only go to our paying subscribers and
small number of people. All right, everybody. Freeloaders.
Yeah, but except for you guys.
We're kicking you off the bus. Subscribers.
Out.
Get ready.
Get ready. Buckle your Sorbo belts.
What?
What is a Sorbo belt? All right, everybody.
Good stuff.
Well, thanks for coming, Sam. And the book, they're your kids.
They're your kids.
In the Sam Sorbo Podcast.
They are.
Yes.
SamSorbo.com.
SamSorbo.com.
I also have a devotional for families which I will send you guys.
Okay.
Because I don't travel with boxes of books.
You should. It's great.
I should, right? And it's called Teach from Love.
Teach from Love.
And it's about instilling godly virtue in our children because the schools aren't doing it. So
they sure aren't.
That's true.
Am I right, Ethan?
He's right. You're
He's
right.
Everybody's right.
Everybody's nodding.
All right, everybody.
All
right.
God bless. Peace out.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Because they support him standing for freedom of religion, the right to hold services.
Yeah, I guess that's the line, is the active, like, I'm going to boycott them and call them out.
Yeah.
Versus like, yeah, I'll watch something else.
Yeah, you want to ruin their career.
I wear a mask to walk to the table, and then I sit down, and I guess the virus is up here, and so when I
That is
sit
the bizarre
down,
thing.
Yeah.
it's okay.
I'm going to go to the restroom. And he's
Yeah.
like walking through the restaurant. Now I'm safe, Or I don't know.
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon Bee subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.